This is A Few Good Fights, proudly brought to you by the MMA Movement. I'm your host, Noel O'Keefe, and I am joined, as always, by Robert Palin and Sean Taylor. Severe MMA Sean Sheehan joins us to talk the big MMA news. UFC 238, Cejudo, is he the GOAT? We look at Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Ferguson, did Cowboy find a way to quit? We look ahead to Bellator 222 this weekend. We educate Sean, and we also have Sean's weird and wonderful news. This is the big MMA news, and I'm delighted to say we are joined by the powerful Sean Sheehan from Severe MMA. So Sean, thanks a million, my man, for taking the time on this beautiful day to come on to A Few Good Fights.
Yeah, no problem, lads. Thanks very much for having me. A beautiful day, as I was just telling you there. My electricity went out because of the thunder and lightning outside, so I don't know how beautiful it actually is, but sure, we might make it beautiful anyway with a bit of chat here about a bit of MMA and whatnot.
What a pro. UFC 238 went down, and we obviously got to talk about it. A lot of things happened in it, but let's start at the top. You had Henry Cejudo gets a big win over Marlon Moraes and becomes the latest champ. Call himself Triple C now, yeah, with the Olympic gold. What did you take from the fight? Like, when you were watching it, at first it looked like it was just going to be all Marlon Moraes, but I loved it. I thought it was a fantastic fight, but more importantly, what did you think?
I thought kind of two things about it. There was a lot of... There was positives that turned into negatives for Marlon Moraes, and then there was negatives that turned into positives for Henry Cejudo, because Marlon Moraes came out and he looked like he was way better, as you said, in that first round. He was just way better than Henry Cejudo. The leg kicks were going really well for him. He was eating up Henry Cejudo, and then it all kind of turned bad. Cejudo put on the pressure and he couldn't deal with it. Got very, very tired. And I don't think it was just the pressure that made him tired. I think it was throwing all those leg kicks as well. So, you know, I've criticised Mark Henry before. I don't think he's the best cornerman or tactician in the world. I think he's a fantastic coach. If you're teaching someone how to jab or to throw a leg kick or whatever, I think Mark Henry is one of the best in the world. But I wouldn't have him in my corner in a million years. I wouldn't have him putting my game plan down in a million years, because that game plan, it was a fine game plan, but it went too far. I think Marlon Moraes' best way of winning that fight was landing that big knockout shot. And, you know, you have to do stuff to set that up. You have to do stuff to break Henry Cejudo down a little bit. You can't just let him dominate and try to land the one big shot. You know, you have to do stuff. And he had to do that with leg kicks, especially, I think. But the fact he threw so many and he came very predictable, I think it got negative and just got worse for him. For Henry Cejudo then, you know, obviously he came in with an injury, and the fact that Moraes attacked that injury, lesser fighters would have wilted to that. You know, we wouldn't even be talking about the second and third rounds getting, you know, worse for Marlon Moraes and him, you know, losing his gas tank and everything like that if Henry Cejudo hadn't been able to come through it. So for me, this was the most impressive display of Henry Cejudo's career. This was the most impressive win. I thought he did fantastically well against Demetrius Johnson, but I don't think he won that fight. He did obviously fantastically well against TJ Dillashaw, but that was an early stoppage. But this, there was nothing about it. You can take away absolutely nothing from him after this. To me, the best fighters in the world are those who meet adversity in the cage in one round, and in the next round and the round after, they come back and they turn it around and they win. In not just against, you know, a top 5 or a top 10 guy, against the number 1 contender in a fight for the belt. So for me, absolutely fantastic by Henry Cejudo, and lacking a bit by Marlon Moraes.
Yeah, I think Henry Cejudo done what Marlon Moraes couldn't do after Henry Cejudo switched it up, because there was a few moments in the first round, as you said, Sean, that he was just being chewed up. Henry Cejudo was being chewed up by leg kicks, and then he realised, okay, I can't stand out here in kicking range. I got to get into the pocket. And once he started getting into the pocket and getting aggressive in there, it seemed like Marlon Moraes didn't really know what to do at that point. He didn't really know how to switch up his game plan and how to get back to where he needed to be, or at least fight in there, because sometimes he was getting caught in a clinch, in the Muay Thai clinch, and like wasn't defending it. He was getting hit clean with knees. It was almost like Chris Lieben, like getting kneed by Anderson Silva. Yeah. And he just didn't seem to know what to do to get back into where he needed to be, and it just went downhill from there.
Yeah, for me, when I was watching it, it almost seemed like Moraes got overconfident after the first round. He thought, I'm going to get him out of here.
In the first round. He did look great.
And what was interesting in between rounds, the corner of Cejudo was telling me you need to get in boxing range, but yeah, commentary was saying, no, he's not going to, like, he's losing the battle in there. Like, I can understand the advice, but it's probably the wrong advice to be giving him, because he's going to get chewed up in there. But I agree completely, Sean, with you, to be able to go from game plan A into game plan B, and it'll show you how heavy them leg kicks were. The fact he was getting wheeled around with a slice of pizza straight away after it. But yeah, incredible performance to get it turned around. But watching it as well, and I said it to you, Rob, beforehand, it was the nail in the coffin of the flyweights as well. The fact that in post-fight he called out bantamweights and weird bantamweights in some way. What did you think of the call out and the idea of what he said about flyweight as well?
Yeah, well, Dana White said afterwards that the flyweight division is sticking around, so it's probably the surest line that's gone. So, but my problem with the flyweights, I think, is the flyweight division sticking around as a flyweight division, or is it sticking around as a women's featherweight division? Is that what it's going to be? Is it going to be just the champion, so you can say you have a double champion and he can defend his belt, once every 18 months or something like that? Is that what it's going to be? Because if it is, you might as well get rid of it, because you're doing nothing but creating a kind of a star out of that, which is fine, I suppose. They kind of tried to do that with Cyborg as well with that division, but. Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with the flyweights, to be honest. They've let so many of them go that there's, even if he says the division is staying, they'll have to sign like 15 or 20 guys for that to actually be true as a real division. But the call-outs, look, I think the Dominic Cruz call-out was fine, because Dominic Cruz is the best bantamweight of all time. He, he lost to, who did he lose to? Cody Garbrandt, and obviously he'd beat TJ Dillashaw and stuff before that, and he'd beaten Uriah Faber and everything, and he's, the injuries and everything, but you can understand that. The other ones, you're calling out Uriah Faber, I know he's coming back, but Uriah Faber looked a shell of him, his former self, when he went away. He's not going to look any better, I doubt, when he comes back. Cody Garbrandt's coming off of 3 now in a row, three big KO losses in a row. So calling him out is a bit weird as well. But he said he wants the money fights. He said he wants more money. And I suppose, are any of them going to actually be money fights? The Faber one is probably the most money fight. He's the most known person out of all of them. Like, if I was him and you wanted to make a money call out, there's only one guy I'd call out here, and that's Frankie Edgar. He's the only one. You call out Frankie Edgar. This is what he should have done. He should have, after he knocked out, or he did knock him out, didn't he? Yeah, Marlon Moraes stood up and goes, Frankie Edgar, if you beat Max Holloway, I want you at 145. If you lose, I want you to come down and fight me at 135. Perfect fight there. Frankie Edgar wins or loses his next fight. Henry Cejudo has a big championship fight coming up. Perfect. But I don't know. Maybe he didn't think it through that much. Yeah.
The flyweight one is really weird to me, because it seems like the worst time you can actually say that the flyweights are staying around, because there's like 12 fighters in the division. If you go to their rankings, 12. They can't even fit the 15 on the page. And then you have the champion as the bantamweight champion, and no fights really at flyweight. Like, who's Henry Cejudo going to fight? Like Formiga or Benavidez?
Benavidez is the fight, yeah.
Yeah.
That's because he's already beaten him and everything.
But do you really want to see Benavidez over Henry fighting up at bantamweight against some of these killers that are coming up? Like, it makes no sense,
I definitely do. I want to see Joseph Benavidez. He's already beaten him. He's really good. Like, Joseph Benavidez should have got another shot at Mighty Mouse a long time ago, I think. I think he's proven himself by far the second best flyweight, of all time. Maybe not now because of Henry Cejudo, but after Mighty Mouse, he's the second best in the world. Even now you could almost argue that. Obviously, you probably say it about the Henry Cejudo, but that's the fight. I think that's another big fight. Like, because if you make that fight, and let's say he beats Joseph Benavidez, he looks even better. He's this guy that's defending belts or winning belts at both weights, and he'll go up and say, I want to defend it at 135 pounds as well. And then if Joseph Benavidez wins, all you have to do is make the fight again at 135 pounds. So you're back to the situation where you had, the TJ Dillashaw, Henry Cejudo situation, which they kind of wanted for, the fight to happen first at 125 pounds for TJ Dillashaw to beat him, and then for them to fight again at 135. Whatever way the situation, or no, for Henry Cejudo to beat him and then go up to 135 pounds and fight him again. So you're in the same situation here. There's a lot. I think there's lots of fights that make sense in terms of like belts and making double champs and making big fights, and I don't think Henry Cejudo mentioned any of them really. Okay, Dominic Cruz I think wouldn't be a bad fight, but can Dominic Cruz make it? Dominic Cruz is still injured at the moment. He's coming back off a shoulder injury. Cody Garbrandt, I don't think Cody Garbrandt will take that fight, because I think he's trying to become more intelligent. Even if they offered it to him, I don't think that's the right time for him right now. And okay, you've Aljamain Sterling. I think that's a fantastic fight. If you were going rankings wise or wins wise or whatever, you go Aljamain Sterling. But Dana White doesn't seem to like him, even though he's trained by his friend Matt Serra. So I don't know really what they're going to do.
That's what I was bringing in, because leading up to this card, I thought the number one title shot or contenders here was the Pedro Muniz Aljo Sterling fight, and the fact that Sterling looks so good in the fight as well, I thought, oh well, there's a clear contender.
Best I've seen in a long time.
He looked fantastic, 4-fight win streak. I thought he couldn't have done more to lay claim to a title shot. And I understand the whole thing of fighters wanting the money fights and all that, but for me as a fan watching, I'm sick of divisions being held up.
Yeah.
You know, like, so basically you're going to have two divisions held up. If he does fight, let's say Frank Yeager beats Max Holloway and he fights him at 45, you've got flyweight, you got bantamweight held up.
It's weird. I don't know why they do this, because like if you talk to Dana White and you hear what he says about 165 and he's so against it, but yeah, he'll have divisions that barely have any fighters in them just to have a title there, or he'll bring in like 10 interim belts just to have a title on the line, when if you have 165 you actually have a viable division that you could probably fill up. So like it doesn't make sense to me, Dana White's like his logic to have these divisions around, you know.
That's the thing though, there's no logic.
Yeah,
that's what it is in UFC, you know. There is no logic there. It's fly by the seat of your pants, you know. They could the three of us here now, one of us could say Benavidez, the other one could say Cruz, the other one could say Sterling, and we'd all have equal claims to who's going to be next. We don't know. Nobody knows. And it's the same for all of those, nearly all the divisions. Like, okay, you look at Adesanya, he is the interim champion, so he's going to get a shot. You look at Poirier, he's interim champion, so he's going to get a shot. But all of the other divisions, you just don't know. Who's going to be after Thiago Santos for John Jones? It could be anyone. Who's going to be after Stipe for Daniel Cormier? It could be Brock Lesnar, you know. And who's coming in heavyweight? I don't know. Could it be John Jones? It's all these divisions are a mess. And even if you look at lightweight, then could it be Conor McGregor coming in before Tony Ferguson? I know we'll probably get to Tony Ferguson, but it's a mess everywhere. Even the women's divisions as well. Like, they're talking now about Nunes going down to fight at 125 pounds. She's fighting at 135 pounds soon, and they're talking about her going up to fight at 145 pounds as well. At least we have the 115 now in division, I suppose, where people are actually fighting each other. So every division almost in the UFC is an absolute mess at the moment.
Bizarre.
Talking about one that wasn't a mess as well on Saturday night, Valentina Shevchenko. This reminded me very much of Crow Cop. It was the right foot to the cemetery, left foot to the right foot to the hospital, left foot to the cemetery. And like, this was one that when we all came in, we were like, yeah, she's gonna do whatever she wants to Jessica Oi here. Like, literally whatever she wants. And Jessica Oi was like, you know, every dog has its day, but Shevchenko went, well, it's not today. My favourite thing about this fight, apart from the kick, was a meme that I seen. And it was like what the toys do when Andy walks into the room.
Oh, seeing that.
And it's Woody and Buzz lying on the floor, and beside them is Jessica Oi.
Terrible.
But
poor Niall McGrath will be devastated.
It was an absolute clinic in every aspect of it, and like, she showed just in every facet of mixed martial arts, she was just a better fighter. But the work to the body and then going up high was something to behold. But it got a little worrying, didn't it, when she was down for so long? Yeah,
it did. Like, you don't see many of them. And it's funny because we saw Rakic last week as well. And I was talking to someone who was actually at that card, and they said, you know, against Jimmy Manuwa, who got knocked out by Alexander Rakic, and they were telling me it was the toughest one they'd ever seen, you know, the worst knockout. And I remember Cody Donovan at that UFC Dublin card. I don't know if you were there or not, but that was one of the most worrying things I've ever seen at a sporting event. Like, I was just kind of looking at him on the ground, waiting for him to get up. And I think it was kind of the same with Jessica. You know, it was just such a bad knockout. It's great to see those people getting back up. But you know, the fight itself. To me, Valentina Shevchenko, okay, coming in, you know, I'm sure you did it last week. We did it last week on the podcast. So we were looking at ways Jessica I could win, and it's, you know, for us, we don't want to write people off totally, but you have to be honest too and write her off. But I think the fact that Valentina Shevchenko came in there and within 2 or 3 minutes, she just bullied her to the ground, took her down, and then destroyed her on the ground as well. You're thinking, okay, this fight's over. You might as well try in the title now, because there's no way she's going to beat her. She's not going to bully her in the clinch. She's not going to get on top and dominate her there, and she's definitely not going to beat her in the striking. And Jessica, her striking is not.
You're trying to be polite. I had said, just before you say it, I had said last week the only way Jessica I could possibly win this fight is by making it an ugly fight. She was trying that with her striking because it was god awful shit.
It's not that. It's like she can throw like a big right hand. Remember, she nearly knocked out Miesha Tate with a big right hander. She can throw good like right hands like that. And what she does okay. But I think her biggest problem is she's very kind of she's very foundational in her striking, and that she's like, it's like she went to a boxing gym and they said how you box is you keep your hands high, you cover up, and you don't let someone punch you in their face. That's not good enough for MMA. You can't do that. You have to protect your face. You have to protect your body. You have to protect down low. And all she was doing was standing there with her hands up. And what was Valentina Shevchenko going to do when that happened? Just attack the body over and over and over. And Jessica was eventually forced to switch it up and protect her body. And when she did that, Valentina Shevchenko, smart enough, came over the top and hit her with a head kick. Pretty simple but pretty effective. A very good striker, someone who isn't a very good striker wouldn't have done that, and someone who isn't a good striker wouldn't have done what Jessica I did, or someone who is a good striker even.
I think Luke Thomas made this point, but I think it's kind of a scary one when you think about it, is that the fact that Jessica probably did deserve this title fight just based on her resume. Recently she won 3 in a row after and hasn't lost in the division, and she's ranked highly. But yeah, it was a mismatch.
Oh, yeah. And
that's probably the entire division, apart from maybe 1 or 2 fighters. So the fact that you're getting to title fights and it's a mismatch, like, I don't think we've ever seen this before. Like, we've seen with Anderson Silva, he was fighting guys who, like, he was clearly going to beat. You know, like Talis Latis back in the day, he was going to beat him, but it wasn't really a mismatch. But I mean, if you take this fight, it wasn't a title fight, and you put it on the undercard, you'd be like, what are the UFC doing making this fight? These 2 girls shouldn't be in there together. That's not how this works. And I don't think we've ever seen this in MMA at title levels, at least in the UFC. We've seen, you know, fights where guys should have won. GSP in his heyday, Anderson Silva in his heyday, but not like this. Like, this is just like, this shouldn't have even happened.
Valentina was 1-12.
1-12.
Yeah, but I think that speaks volumes to where women's MMA currently is at that highest level. There's, like, when you even cast it back to Ronda, who, you know, Dana White created women's MMA in the UFC for the division for women in MMA in the UFC. Like, Ronda was so far ahead because she had a trick. You know what I mean? She had a gimmick, and the sport evolved to that gimmick, and they then knew how to stop her. They then knew how to beat her up. While Valentina Shevchenko is the next higher tier than that again, and the women below her just haven't evolved to that skill level as yet. And it's so young. It's like, we talk about MMA being so young as a sport, but women's MMA within the big promotions is like infancy in comparison.
I think the biggest issue as well here is 125 pounds is still a very, very new division. You know, I had Zen Simon on the podcast, the State of the UFC podcast we do on Patreon there maybe 2 months ago, and he's a great person to have on because he, you know, keeps the UFC roster and stuff over in Bloody Elbow, and he does a great job in that. But he was kind of saying to me, because I kind of made a similar point there, that you know, the division isn't really there yet, and the quality isn't there to fill up that division yet. And he was saying, it kind of, you'll be surprised how quickly it actually does it. Give it another year or you know, 18 months or whatever. Like, look at the 125 or 115 pound division, sorry. That did it fairly quickly. That division, you know, is not bad now. There's a lot of contenders there. At the moment, this division is still really settling out, and people are still moving into it and moving out of it. You know, I don't know if you did the rankings up in front of you there, but it's hard to see who's even coming next. Like, Caitlin Chukagan won at the weekend. That's going to be another mismatch if they make that. You know, Joanne Calderwood, I just don't think she's championship level. You know, you've Roxanne Metaferi around there then again, who, God almighty, imagine making that fight. It'd be absolutely horrendous. But there people will emerge. I think, looking at it now and probably looking at that rankings, you're probably thinking who's going to emerge. But someone will. Someone will go on like a 3-fight win streak, and someone will... It mightn't beat Valentina Shevchenko, but there'll be a challenger we're excited about to Valentina Shevchenko probably in the next 18 months or so, you know, if she doesn't move out of that division or anything. But at the moment, it's going to be mismatches for a while.
Looking at the rankings, the only one there really I can see that could come up, but still a ways away, is Macy Barber. She's ranked 13, but she needs a few more wins for sure. But yeah, you have Jessica Eye, ranked number 1, Chukagian, Liz Carmouche, you can Jacek, who she just beat, and Modafferi.
Yeah. Slim pickings.
Yep.
One of the fights that got everybody excited. The card was already stacked before they even added this. This was Tony Ferguson and Donald Cowboy Cerrone. Let's talk about the fight first. First round, highly competitive, and it was like the fight that MMA fans dreamed of.
Yeah, it was a really good fight. Like, to me, you know, I was talking on the podcast last week with Graham, and he was saying about Tony Ferguson being a slow starter, and we all think of Donald Cerrone as a slow starter, and Ferguson, you know, he started a bit slowly, but I think it's because guys are willing to kind of, not willing to fight him, but know what he's like and realize they have to come and fight him hard like that. But I think it was a slower start than even usual from Tony Ferguson here. You know, Cowboy was just boxing him up, to be honest. And, you know, for me, Cowboy is a very, very good fighter, but a hugely overrated fighter for years and years and years, and has been. And that was until that Ali Quinta fight. I thought that was a game-changing fight. I think he was absolutely fantastic in that fight. He's boxing and improved so much. He's been working with Joe Schilling now, and I think that maybe that's the reason it has improved an awful lot. Looked really, really good. And in the first round here, it looked really good again. He was jabbing up Tony Ferguson, just winning that fight easily. Not throwing too many leg kicks, but when he did, he was placing them well. Maybe what Marlon Moraes probably should have been doing. But then Tony Ferguson he went into overdrive. And I said it coming into this fight. I thought the reason Tony Ferguson would win this was because he's going to always get that fight, into a backyard brawl. He's going to make it that, and he's always going to win in that situation. And that's what he did. He just turned up the gas a little bit like Henry Cejudo, just went forward, was landing his wild stuff, got very, very flowy in the second round, was throwing those spinning elbows and getting his back turned to him. So he was still a bit rusty, is the word I'm looking for. He was still a bit rusty going in there. So, even if, I know we'll probably talk about the finish, but even if they're to do a rematch, I think that'll probably stand him. That'll be good for him before going into a Khabib and Poirier fight, if that's the case. But, still a very good performance. You're talking about Henry Cejudo, you're talking about Tony Ferguson. Neither of them looked their best, I don't think, on Saturday night, but still won very well against very, very good contenders. So it was impressive from both of them.
Yeah, I think what I took from it was as the fight got more awkward, because Tony Ferguson fights awkward, that's when Cerrone started losing. Yeah. It's like Tony Ferguson puts himself in these positions that you just don't see. He stands right in front of guys with his chin up, and he's there to be landed on. But when you land on him, you can see what your face ends up looking like at the end of the fight.
There was a great graph of Tony's last 6 opponents and just the mess of their face.
The pictures, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's when you fight them, you're in a butcher's.
Yeah.
I described the fight last week as Tony Ferguson is the perfect kryptonite for Donald Cowboy Cerrone, because we always talk about when Cerrone's put under pressure, he tends to fold, and Ferguson's like a fire blanket on a fire. He just covers you. He doesn't allow you a moment to breathe. When you want to take a breath, he'll go to the body, and as Rogan said in broadcast, he'll punch and kick you at the same time. He's just so unorthodox, puts so much pressure on, and it's relentless. He's just constantly touching you up, and it's like I'm convinced he sits at home just sharpening his elbows or something, or sharpening every part of his body, because whatever he hits you with, he tends to cut you with. It must be the way he throws his punch, that it just sort of scratches it along you, and it goes across, and he just wore him up. But what surprised me, and I was talking to a guy, I want to put this to you, I was talking to Carl today at lunch, somebody I work with, and myself, Carl, and Rob, not that Rob, different Rob, and
making it way more confusing than it has to be.
But we were talking I was talking to colleagues in work, and they basically said, such the veteran that Cowboy is. So this is the question I put to you: was him blowing his nose him looking for a way out?
That thought went through my head. It's funny because I haven't heard anyone else saying that, and I was thinking that today. I don't think so, though. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I couldn't say that against Cowboy. He's a tough motherfucker. He goes in and takes these fights on short notice, and he's, Cowboy is, no matter what people say, he's not. He's not the toughest guy in the world. When you're talking about the UFC now, he's probably one of the top 20 toughest guys on fucking earth. But in the UFC, he's probably not top 18. It's one of them. But I don't think he did. I really, really don't. I find it hard to get my head around that finish, because there's so many different integers. I think if the late punch had just been landed and he had no broken nose, and it had broken his nose and then he'd blown it out, I think it should have been a disqualification then. But I think the fact his nose was bleeding, gushing out before that, and was pretty obviously broken, I don't think he caused 100% of the fight-ending injury. No, he did cause it, but he caused it before the bell, you know what I mean, with the illegal blow. And there was 3 factors in it. There was the already broken nose and Cerrone blowing out his nose. They were the top 2 factors for me in what happened. And then there was the late punch afterwards. Now, you can make the argument that's only all being a bit logical. It's only all, talking about what actually happened rather than the actual facts of the thing. So the actual facts were he did land a late punch. I said it on my podcast, I think whatever would have happened, if it was a DQ, if it was a TKO, KO, or if it was a no contest, it's one of those odd situations that we don't see too often. I think it would have been okay either way. But if I was doing it, if I was making the decision, I think I would have given it a TKO, KO to Tony Ferguson, to be honest.
I agree.
Yeah, and Margliara straight away was like, he went and looked at the footage, so he knew the fight was over straight away.
He handled it pretty well.
Yeah, I thought he did not like the last referee.
He should have been in quicker though. He should have been in quicker to stop that fight.
Yeah, and that's actually, I was going to ask that question because it's interesting. You see some referees at the bell when they're doing it, they'll be like, and they'll step in, and I felt Margliara was a little, lads, that's the end of the round. Like, he wasn't. They were exchanging. It wasn't, and like you see it in a lot of fights when fighters hear the 10-second clapper, they go for hell for leather, and they were already exchanging. So the fact that, like, my only problem with it was the horn clearly went, and then Ferguson threw the combination.
It was dirty.
Like
it was dirty.
He wasn't. He hadn't thrown like the one and was following with the two. No. Nothing was being actually thrown, and then
he let the crazy go a little bit. Yeah.
But I agree with you. Like, I noticed when that happened, Cowboy went at his nose as if he was going to blow it, and then he went into his corner, and then he blew it after the corner.
Yeah.
I don't fall for, just to be clear before somebody comments on it, I don't fall for he done it as a way out.
I don't think he would want to deal with that anyway.
But
it's fucking horrible.
He had said he was asking them to suppress the air and get the air out of it. Like, it was never going to happen. Once his eye closed up like that, I was like, because I was watching it. I'm not going to lie, right? I didn't watch it live. I was in Belfast for Clan Wars, and I got home, I was shattered. But I got up the next morning, I was watching it, and stupidly I went onto Instagram.
Nice.
And I seen Cowboy smile into the camera, and I went, "Fuck, Cowboy won! Shit, I've spoiled it on myself." So when it got to the eye was blown out, and they're sitting here, I'm going, "Oh well, no, Cowboy wins, so it's going to restart." So it was really peculiar for me watching it, but it's one of them fights that I think if that didn't happen, take away Cowboy's eye blown up, I think Ferguson goes on and wins the fight. I think he'd just taken over. The momentum had completely swung in the fight, and it was all Tony Ferguson. Potentially could have finished him. We'll never get to know that unless they run it back. But I thought it was a big win. But I'm actually agree with your point. I'd love to see Ferguson get another fight before he gets the winner of Poirier and Khabib.
Yeah.
Like, I really would, because I think he looked. He got loose in the second round, but he was very stagnant. I just thought he was doing some, you can't even call them fundamentals mistakes, because that's everything that Tony Ferguson does. But he was making errors that you don't see him do in the fight. I thought he telegraphed some of the combinations and stuff he was throwing as well.
I just think
they should put it on that card. Put it on the Poirier Khabib card. What, it's 3 months away now. He can make that absolutely no problem. Put it on that card. Even, I don't know. The Cowboy does he have a broken bone in his face or something after that? I haven't heard.
I don't know.
Is it a broken orbital bone?
Orbital bone.
Broken
orbital
bone.
like
he won't be fighting him, but to get someone else in there to fight him, I think he could do with a fight, and especially if he was a co-main event on that, or the third from the top. I think that having him on the same night is a very important thing, because everyone is afterwards asking Dana White in the press conference, is this the fight to be made? And he always says, I don't make fights in the press conference, but he could. I think it's a risk worth taking if you're Tony Ferguson, because if you don't take that risk and don't win that fight in the same night, a little man from Dublin is going to come in there and he's going to fucking take that fight off you. So
what about a little man from Dublin fighting him? That'd be fun. Unbelievable to have that, basically a 4-man tournament, and the winner fights the winner. Do you know who I felt sorry for? No, it's not just because I picked him.
Jessica Eye, was it?
Jimmy Rivera. Jimmy Rivera. Jimmy Rivera won 14 minutes and 20 seconds of that fight, but he still loses the fight. And what I thought, you were talking about Mark Henry earlier, his cornering. I thought the corner of Jimmy Rivera was awful.
Really?
They were basically telling me, you need to knock this guy out. Tell me how to do it. Tell me what to do. Yeah. Give me some direction. It's like you hear a coach, when you're ever at an event, Sean, I'm sure you hear cornering, and sometimes it's terrible. Their fighter will be on the bottom, and you'll hear their corner going, get up! No problem. You want to tell me anything? And I just felt Rivera's corner was saying it, and they actually said to him, either get knocked out or knock him out, something along them lines. And they weren't giving him direction. The one direction they should have been telling him was, stop getting yourself square up against the fence. Stay in the open field. He was winning the fight when they were in the open field. As soon as he squared up against the cage, literally in every round, he got dropped, and that's where he lost the fight. So I really felt for Jimmy Rivera, but I just thought his cornering, the voice in the corner was awful. But it was a weird one for Petr Yan, because with Sterling looking so good, that's a big win. Jimmy Rivera, Jimmy was on such a winning streak for so long that was a big win for him to climb to 13-1, potentially look at a title shot. But it was a weird win. Although he looked good, he lost the majority of the fight.
I don't know if you heard his interview afterward, but I reckon he broke his foot with the first kick, or hurt it at least anyway, because I was watching a fight, and if you go back and watch it within 10 seconds, he throws a leg kick, and the snap out of it, like there was a huge snap on that foot, and I'd swear he hurt his foot, because even, Jimmy Rivera fought brilliantly, and I said it coming into that fight that this was a pick'em fight. Jimmy Rivera is a really, really good fighter. I love Peter Yan as well. I think he's going to be a champion in years to come, but excellent. He just didn't look himself. He did not look himself in that fight. He's brilliant at closing down, cutting off the cage, and as you said, getting someone up against the cage and doing damage there. That's what he's known for. That's what he's brilliant at. But he barely did it in this fight. Now, Jimmy Rivera circled well and got away from him well, but Peter Yan has seen that before. He's seen people who circle well, and he's been able to cut him down before. But I don't know. He just felt off to me. But the fact that you look at that, and I talked about it with Ferguson, I talked about it with Cejudo as well, not looking their best and still winning. He didn't look his best. He, as you said, I agree, he lost most of this fight, and he still won. That's unbelievable, especially in your first big, huge step up against a guy like Jimmy Rivera, who for me is top 5, top 6 in that division in the world, in one of the best divisions in the world. To beat him like that, brilliant. Like Peter Yan is really, really good.
Yeah, he is, and I love seeing guys who like are good prospects and also have time in the cage, because how many times have we seen guys come in, blast onto the scene with a big knockout and can kind of continue that for a few fights, and then we don't really know what they're made of.
Hernandez, the young man.
Yeah. But we know what Peter Yan's made of.
Him.
Yeah. We know what Peter Yan's made of. He's excellent. He's really good.
Let's fly through just a couple of picks. I'll throw it to you, Sean. Is that you can throw out a fight that you thought stood out for you for a big performance outside of the ones we've already spoke of?
Oh God, who was I looking at? I thought the Ivanov fight against Tai Tuivasa, I thought he did pretty well. It wasn't a great fight, but to stand up to all those fights against all those punches even against Tai Tuivasa. But for me, the fight kind of coming into it was the Tatiana Suarez-Nina Ansaroff fight, and that was maybe not the classic people were looking for, but it was the fight I kind of expected. Maybe not the way it happened, but obviously you expect Tatiana Suarez to be, dominant on the ground, really good takedowns, and you expect Nina Ansaroff, if it stays standing, to probably win that fight. But I think Nina Ansaroff could have won that fight. Like, I think this is a point, and maybe apart from the fight itself, but there's a point that people like Khabib and people like Tatiana Suarez, we forget they're human beings. We see them as these monsters that are just going to go in there and take us down. And there's opportunities. We saw in the third round for Tatiana Suarez. We saw with Gleison Tibau against Khabib Nurmagomedov. If you do the right thing, if you get the underhook in the right place, if you control the wrist in the right place and turn off, they're human. You can turn them around. You can do it if you do the right things. But if you panic, you say, I'm fighting this fucking beast, there's nothing I can do, then they're going to take you down easier anyway. You saw in the third round, Tatiana Suarez is excellent when she gets you on the right side. So if you circle that way into her right hand side, she's going to come around, over you. She's going to get that right hand around and she's going to take you down. If you go the other way, she has to follow you, circle around, run after you. She's not as good with her left side. So if people circle that way, can jab and get out like an Alexander Gustafsson does a lot of the time, like Jimmy Rivera did at the weekend. If you can circle like that against Tatiana Suarez, I think you'll have a very, very good chance of maybe not beating her, but a good chance of having a more even fight than lots of her fights have been yet. I'd love to see her fight Rosam Yunus. I think that fight would be brilliant. I'd love to see, maybe not next or ever, but in the future sometime. I think her game planning is absolutely brilliant. But the fact I like that fight so much, because I think Nina Ansaroff is really, really good. I think people underestimate her. I think in the third round we saw how good she is and how smart she can also be as well. So that was the fight maybe that stood out to me. Not a classic, but a good tactical fight, which I enjoy.
We kind of talked about it earlier. Aljamain Sterling, I thought he looked great. I thought he was at least throwing combinations. I think for a lot of his fights previous, he seemed to be kind of a one-shot type of guy. Not like a one-shot knockout, but I mean, throws like a leg kick and then stops. Throws a punch, stops. But he was throwing combinations together, good head movement. I thought he looked really good. Yeah.
Let's move on, because we're wary of the time. You know, it's just the big MMA news to be all UFC 38. Sticking with the UFC, Diego Sanchez and Clay Guida are going to be inducted into the fight wing of the UFC Hall of Fame. Worthy of it. We do a thing on the show here where young Sean, who controls the cameras and speaks the odd time with his Cavan accent, he's a lot younger than us. Sean's only a wee pup, so he hasn't seen a lot of fights.
Like myself.
So we have a section where we call Educating Young Sean, where we give Sean a couple of fights each week and he goes off and watches them and then he scores them. So what he thought. So actually Rob gave him Diego Sanchez and Clay Guida a couple of weeks ago.
A few weeks ago, yeah.
So yeah, a pivotal fight and a crazy fight. A worthy to be inducted into this make-believe wing?
Yeah, it is, I suppose. I think Diego Sanchez himself should be in the UFC Hall of Fame because I love Diego Sanchez. Like, it was funny, Luke Thomas tweeted afterwards that I love this fight, but it's not as good as Diego Sanchez versus Karo Parisian. And I was like, yeah, the two of them are great as well, but neither of them are as good as Diego Sanchez versus Gilbert Melendez. Diego Sanchez has just classic fight after classic fight after classic fight. Just a brilliant fighter, has been for years. I absolutely love him. You know, Clay Guida's one of those guys as well. You know, it happens sometimes. Like Aljamain Sterling at the weekend. Everyone was saying, oh, this guy is brilliant. I love watching him fight. He's so exciting. But like 2 fights ago, everyone said, Aljamain Sterling is so boring. And you know, he's rubbish. Clay Guida was one of those guys as well. Everyone loved him at one stage. And then another stage, everyone thinks he's boring as shit and hates him. But Diego Sanchez was never that. Although he was actually as well. Remember when he came through the Ultimate Fighter? He was taking lads down and laying on top of them. He's kind of like that as well. But yeah, I just love it. I love that fight. It was absolute fucking madness. Just one of those mad fights like Sanchez versus Mendes. So yeah, for me, well deserving. Like I'm doing this new thing now where I rate fights, you know, every weekend, and I give them like a rating, and if you know that one was happening now, would it be in the solid, you know, probably 9.1, 9.2. One of those fights, just an absolutely brilliant fight. So well deserving fight.
He also had a it's a double rainbow moment for me. I think it was today actually. It's this morning as I was coming in. I was looking at his Instagram. He was climbing under a waterfall saying, waterfalls are so magical.
Diego.
You're like, fucking
hell, like
Diego.
He's unbelievable, that guy.
Phenomenal.
Remember the yes cartwheel? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
The yes cartwheel.
Well, he changed his name from the Nightmare to
the Dream, and then he went on a bad spell, so he changed it back.
Anyway, a bit sort of old-ish news now, but definitely we're talking about is Khabib and Dustin has been confirmed for UFC 242 in Abu Dhabi. Big fight. We all sort of knew about it. Was we were waiting on the confirmation, but it's like you sort of said it there a moment ago about everybody sees Khabib as just this monster that is not human. I actually think this is a huge test for him and Dustin Poirier, and I can't wait to watch it. I'm not gonna lie, Darman's not gonna like me. Early picks here. I'm looking at Poirier.
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Shocker. I just want him to unblock me on Twitter. But yeah, big fight, big announcement, keep the division rolling. Good to have Khabib back. But what's the initial thoughts on it? Do you think it is the best fight for Khabib, and you know they're actually giving the interim champion a shot at the champion?
Wow. Yeah, good fight. Before you do it, actually, speaking about being blocked, he blocked my brother Patrick as well, actually. And he was. Do you remember that UFC Dublin where he was supposed to fight?
Yeah.
And who was he supposed to fight?
Joe Duffy.
Joe Duffy. Yeah. So we were. I was covering that fight, and we were in, you know, the Gibson afterwards, having a few drinks and stuff. And Dustin Poirier like came up to us, just started drinking with us, and I was drinking away with himself and Sean Shelby for about 3 hours after everyone else had gone to bed. And I goes, "Here, you block my brother on Twitter," and he just gets his phone and just fucks it at me and catches and goes, "Unblock him." So yeah, he's sound out.
Could have found me, Sean. Could have found me.
Next time I'm drinking him, I get to unblock you. But yeah, this fight, we'll just talk about drinking stories. Now this fight is, it's like I must watch more tape on it, because initially you're looking at it and you're saying Dustin Poirier has the ability to beat Khabib Nurmagomedov because he has good takedown defense. He's good against the cage. He's really good striking. If it gets into a striking match, I think he'll beat him. He's maybe, along with Conor McGregor, the hardest hitter at that division, which is funny enough, seeing as they came up from 145 pounds. So he has the ability to beat him. But can he get over the Khabib Nurmagomedov factor? Can he get over that? Can he not see him as a monster that he can't beat? And I think he might be able to, because remember, he fought Conor McGregor when he was at his best, and he got beaten by him. But he came back from that, and he's ever since. Like, remember that when during that embedded, remember McGregor looking at his phone like laughing at Poirier like being fucked up in the head by him.
Yeah.
But Poirier has never been like that since.
Yeah.
His whole mindset seems to have changed, and he seems like a fella to me who's in an unbelievably good mindset and improving all the time as well with his game throughout there. So I've given him a big hope in this fight. I'm not giving my official pick yet. I don't know. I must watch more fights and watch him against wrestlers specifically again, and watch Khabib against people, you know, who maybe can strike with him. Although we don't really see much of that because Khabib is just so dominant that way. But I don't think it's a mad pick at all to pick Dustin Poirier. If he can stop the takedown, which, is one part of the game, he'll win the fight. But that one part of the game is so absolutely huge that it's going to change the whole fight. So I can't wait for it. It's a really interesting fight.
Great. You see, my aspect is what I always say Dustin Poirier was guilty of, which if he was still doing it, you'd be really concerned is he crowds his work and sometimes he gets too close to his opponents. But I found he's
grown up
that a lot, you know.
Yeah, it's a great fight. I didn't realize how much I liked the fight until I actually seen it announced. When I seen the graphic, I was like, oh shit, this is a great fight.
But it's literally one of the fights where we're saying all the divisions are messed up, and this is the division that the right thing is actually happening.
Yeah.
Former UFC middleweight champion Chris Weidman is moving up to light heavy, so following Rockhold up. What do we think of it? Weidman's a weird one because in the fights that he's lost recently, he's actually been doing really well in them. So we've seen the benefits. This is something we talked about a couple of weeks ago as well. It's about cutting weight. Do we expect this to be big improvements for Chris Weidman moving up?
No, I don't think so. Chris Weidman's a good fighter, but something happened a few years ago, and he stopped improving. He stopped being what he was. He just wasn't the same fighter anymore. And once that happens, you're not getting it back. It's very, very unusual that you get it back. And I don't think Chris Weidman will. He'll still win fights, and he'll probably win a lot of fights. And he might go on a 2 or 3 fight win streak, but he'll never win a title again. He'll never beat John Jones. I don't think he'll fight for a title at light heavyweight. Although it'll probably be easier at light heavyweight. But
you have to break it.
Look, Chris Weidman's a good fighter. He is a good fighter, but. Knocking out Anderson Silva for the first time in 10 years or whatever it was is brilliant. But if that's the only thing you do, and then obviously he broke his leg in the next fight, and he was in a few good fights as well, but I don't know. That was the highlight of his career, and he's never reached those heights again, and he never will reach those heights again, I don't think.
I was one of the guys.
You broke Noel's heart.
And I agree with you. Sorry, but I agree with you. I am a big Weidman fan. I've got 2 of his t-shirts, but I've got a signed glove.
Stole it from his house.
I broke it in.
Me having a restraining order as well.
Yeah.
I am a big Weidman fan, but I think I'm not going to expand on too much what you've said because I agree with it perfectly. It almost has something stopped, and it's almost like he doesn't believe in himself to get these victories. And the Jacare one is that perfectly. He game planned, he was fighting really well, and then he just took the foot off the gas, and Jacare put it on. And
the only thing I will say for Weidman is that I think this is a long time coming. He does cut a lot of weight, and I think that will be a benefit. I'm not saying it's going to change his whole game. He's going to become this world beater again, but I think it's he cuts a lot of weight. I think it's going to be a good change for him, health wise anyway. And fighters fighting at heavier weight classes, we've seen it with Anthony Smith kind of went on a weird run, then now we had a resurgence. That it's different because especially with heavyweights and then light heavyweights and stuff, they can fight longer, and I think age isn't necessarily a huge factor for them. So we'll see how he does. But
I want to cover this one because I was trying to go on to cancel my subscription today, but you have to call to do it. You can't do it on chat. So Air Sport and BT Sports have announced that UFC is going, not all the cards, but the next one, UFC 239 is going on pay-per-view on BT Sport. So what that basically means to you, if you're in, I presume it's the same in the UK Ireland, as well, UK Ireland, is your subscription currently at the moment is $29.99 per month for Air Sports. I don't think I've turned on Air Sports once since I've had the subscription. I only use it for BT Sports for watching the UFC, but they've announced this could be, when you look and compare that Bellator is now on Sky Sports, this could be a big hit for the UFC. Now don't get me wrong, we're all still going to watch it. We won't give reasons, or we won't Brendan Schaub it and say how we're going to watch it, but we are going to watch it. But yeah, well, is this crazy? I don't think it's UFC. I think it's more BT or whatever it may be. But what's your thoughts on pay-per-views on BT, considering you're already paying £30 for it?
I think it's disgraceful and stupid money grab. It makes no sense. It's not even a money grab, because who's going to buy this? If I'm sure if you were a fan, if I was just a fan, if you didn't have to do a podcast, if I didn't have to do a podcast, I wouldn't be buying this. Not a fucking hope in hell. Yeah. No way would I buy this. And I encourage people not to buy it. If you're a fan, do not buy this card. Just don't skip it.
I agree.
Because if no one buys the first one, then maybe they won't do it again. They probably will do it again, because I saw someone saying yesterday, if one person buys this, they're up £20.
Yeah,
because they're getting the same amount of money from BT, they're getting the same amount of money from America, everywhere else. So this is just, but it's so idiotic. Like, like who's gonna buy this?
They're just
you're looking at people, right? Say in their young people coming in watching MMA, who know, they know how to get streams to watch the fight if they want to watch there. They're not going to pay 20 quid. Maybe the people who are a little bit older who would buy this are not going to get streams, and they're not going to watch it live at 3 o'clock in the morning, and they're definitely not going to buy it the next day at 10 o'clock when they wake up or whatever on a Sunday morning. Who's going to buy it? Who is going to buy it? You're going to have how many people? 1,000 people buy it? Are you going to have 1,000? I'd be surprised if 1,000 people. We'll never find out the number.
Yeah.
But I was talking to a couple of people, and they were estimating about 1,000 people will buy this, which is absolutely ridiculous. Like, just a stupid idea. You're cutting off your whole fan base. And okay, it's only a few fights a year. It might only be 2 or 4, whatever. We don't know yet. I asked, and they didn't know, and we don't know how much it's going to be either. But it's stupid. It makes no sense. You're making tiny. Fair enough if you're going to get 100,000 buys out of this, or if you're going to get 50,000 buys out of this. Fair enough. I'd say they're going to earn money. We don't like it. I'd still hate it, but I'd understand it. But I do not understand this. It makes no sense. If you're a fan, you should be complaining to high hell about this. You should be ringing up BT, telling them I don't want this to happen. You should be tweeting the UFC every day until they stop it. Tweeting BT. Not buying this card. You should be going mad over it. We have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to support this sport, to watch the sport. We're already paying our premium to BT Sport, and they want us to pay more for the pleasure of staying up till 6:30 in the morning to watch them. Fuck them.
and if that was at 6:30 in the morning, you wouldn't even be able to say fuck them. They would have went.
Yeah, it's
exactly.
The Tyson Fury card is on BT Sports box office this weekend, and it's £20, and it is fucking shit.
Yeah.
So jeez, that's doing 1,000 buys. Who the fuck is buying that card?
Yeah, I don't know. The worrying thing for me was because when I read it, I said this to Sean today. When I read it originally, and I said that some cards would be put on pay-per-view, I was like, okay, they'll do like
John
a
Jones,
Conor McGregor card,
and
but like
Big
the
Jones
very
card.
so the very first star that they have, like, or at least one of the 4 stars they have, John Jones against Thiago Santos, like, no offense to him, but like, it's the first star they have, and they throw it on pay-per-view. So I can imagine every John Jones card pay-per-view, probably any heavyweight title fight pay-per-view, Conor pay-per-view, and probably Khabib and Poirier is going to be pay-per-view.
But my thing about it is, it's not like pay-per-view back like if it was Mike Tyson fighting and like there was no way of watching it. Like, as you said, everybody knows him. My dad is in his 70s and he can get streams.
I've never bought a pay-per-view. I refuse to do it.
Yeah.
Fucking refuse to do it. Flat out refuse.
Yeah.
I bought McGregor.
To start with this one is stupid as well. Like,
it's a bad one to start with.
You've Poirier and Habib coming up, and that's at 7 o'clock our time.
Yeah.
Why would you not start it with that card? And that makes me think they're starting with this card because they're going to do that one as well.
100%.
Definitely.
So someone sent me in a question to the podcast there, and they said like the events that are coming up and stuff. So like, I wouldn't be surprised if they did this one. They did the Poirier Habib card, and then they did one at Christmas as well. So that's going to be 3 in the space of 6 months. Will they do 6 a year? Like, that'd be an awful lot for them to do. I don't think they will do that many. From what I've been hearing, they won't do that many. But I think if they do that, it'll be very worrying for fans, and people won't like it one bit.
With the boxing as well, that's a lot of pay-per-views to be running at the back end of the year as well.
Yeah.
All the Fury cards are pay-per-view.
Yeah, I think it's a really bad business move, because like, if you offer, like in any business, you offer a customer a certain thing, and they've been offering us this for a long time. You pay a subscription to get this, and you get it. And now they're adding another premium on top, and they're not improving the events. It's the same thing.
If you look at it as well,
bad.
like, BT made life a lot harder for people to get about 3 years ago.
BT.
They on Virgin, they were gone from Virgin, so you had to get Sky in. So I was with Virgin. I moved, and my reason for Virgin was, you have lost BT. I only want you for UFC. I got Sky, and now there's this extra thing. Like, if you were to have, let's say there was one pay-per-view a month, you're talking, and it has to be capped. I think the most you can charge in Ireland is $24.95, is it, or something like that. So it's like you're still looking at 55 quid a month for your, and like, you don't watch anything else on BT, especially summer months. What the fuck are you watching on BT Sports in the summer?
Anyone who wants to know how to watch the fights, just hit me up on Twitter. I will help you.
And we won't be watching the Champions League next year either. So what are you going to be watching? Nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Quickly fight through these because they're just Dana White points. BJ Penn won't fight in the UFC again. Can't do it again.
13.
Yeah, he said it about 5 years ago too, and he fought like 4 times since. So yeah, I wouldn't believe that.
Yeah, I think they know that he's not really a big star anymore, so maybe they won't let him fight. They just want to get a little bit extra from him.
And who would have thought that Dana White says something bad about Sage Northcutt when he's not promoting him anymore? He says that he's not cut out for the fight game and pleads with him to retire.
Dana White being Dana White, like what, a fella goes out, gets knocked out. What did he said about Joanne Calderwood at the weekend, who has probably more of a reason for people to say she's not a fighter than Sage Northcutt.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying she's not either, but she's in a similar sort of position where people coming up thinking she was really, really good, and then she just gets beaten kind of over and over, even more than Sage Northcutt. And she has like that quiet and very nice, kind demeanour as well. Like, why wouldn't he say it about her? Why does he say it about Sage Northcutt? Obviously, because he's gone, because he can't make money out of him anymore. That's why he's doing it. So, I think people know Dana White at this stage, and I think a very, very small majority, or minority even, of people listen to this shit from Dana White anymore. Yeah. So it's actually, I think it probably benefits Sage Northcutt for Dana White to say this, because people will revolt against Dana White and probably take Sage Northcutt's side.
And I think as well, a lot of people, when they may perhaps first seeing the knockout of Sage, and they were like, holy shit, he got destroyed, and then they looked into who destroyed him. You know what I mean? You're talking about an elite kickboxer. You know what I mean? So
I remember the reports as well when he left the UFC that they offered him like a main event spot, and they just didn't want to match the deal. Yeah, so shut up, Dana.
Yeah. A little point we put at the end here is just any other news, and I think is the big MMA talking point from this week. Justin Bieber has called out Tom Cruise.
Well,
Oscar De La Hoya has said he'll promote it.
It can't happen. It can't happen. He only signs people who can get to the top 5. Dana White said that this week, so that fight can't happen. Yeah. So, I'd love it though. Let's make it happen. Yeah. I'd love to see it.
Really? Real life celebrity deathmatch. I love
to sign CM Punk when he was fighting. He was absolutely rubbish, because it shows what this sport actually is. Because you can't have these idiots coming in here trying it. Oh, I'd love to see him.
What I love about it, my favourite part is you've genuinely got people on Twitter discussing who would win, and they're like, Tom Cruise does all his own stunts. That's the main thing I've seen, and it's like, yeah, but Tom Cruise is like 56. And you're like, seriously, are we talking about this?
Justin Bieber's Justin Bieber, so.
I think Bieber's trained though, hasn't he? Didn't Bieber do a bit of jiu-jitsu and a bit of boxing and stuff?
I've seen him hitting a few pads before.
Bieber would win. I got Bieber submission first.
My
pay-per-view, whatever happens.
My pick is if Bieber gets out of the first round. I reckon Cruise has a bit of a first round in him, and then he age comes into play. You know what I mean? 56. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Ring rust, considering he's never been in there, so he's fairly rusty.
He's got L. Ron Hubbard on his side though.
Love it.
That's the funny thing, is that somebody said that Bieber's fucked. He's gonna have loads of film people outside now just filming. I'm like, he already fucking has.
He's that anyway.
The real talking point though is one championship is Demetrius Johnson has been matched, and so is Eddie Alvarez, keeping the boys on the same card as well.
Like it.
And again, 2 good fights though. I honestly just think are signing these guys to put them up against and say, look at the caliber of our fighters.
Yeah, I'm not sure what one are doing, like, because who are they fighting? I hadn't heard this now. I don't know who they're fighting, but like, I think it's good to have Eddie Alvarez, good to have Demetrius Johnson, but what inroads are they making over here? I think they're making big inroads in Asia, but all that we see to hear from ONE FC is just lies about them being like the biggest company in the world and just bullshit from them, which is very unfortunate because they have some very, very good fighters, but. Like, I'd love for them to do a bit of business with Ryzen or someone like that and get Haraguchi in there to fight Demetrius Johnson again and, make a big Eddie Alvarez fight. I know Eddie Alvarez lost, so maybe they'll do a rematch in that or whatever. But, yeah, it's hard. It's hard to get behind these organizations when we don't see that much of them. We hear Demetrius Johnson and Eddie Alvarez are going to fight, and then, a day before the fight, we'll hear, they just weighed in here, they're fighting tomorrow, and we get on the app and watch it at like 10:30 in the morning or whatever. How much does that actually do for him with the fan base and stuff here? That'd be my worry about ONE FC. But look, I think they were making good moves there for a while. They seem to have a lot of money behind them. They seem to be like this new age disruptor in the market thing, which I'm not sure how well it'll work in MMA. How long will they actually last? I'm not too sure. But look. Fair play to him.
Johnson is Tatsuya Wada, and Alvarez takes on the former lightweight champion Edward Folang. So He's out of Team Lakoy in the Philippines. So
Sean's comment there.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that guy.
But it is weird that they're keeping them together. But they're giving them. Obviously, TJ has to be because it's in the round ribbon, isn't it?
Yeah,
the Grand Prix.
I just seeing Mark Goddard's tweet there. Just see, he said that the opening exchanges between Henry Cejudo and Marlon Moraes were the fastest I've ever seen in 15 years as a ref. Okay, that's impressive.
I also love that Goddard took a picture beside Kevin McDonald to go, I understand why you think we're the same person. And it literally looked like Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, right, I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Kevin McDonald is such a bad referee. God almighty. He's consistently bad. Like, Is
he the new Steve Mazzagatti?
I don't know. He's not that bad. Like, but Jesus,
don't insult the man.
TJ Dillashaw, who was the TJ Dillashaw Henry Cejudo fight? That stoppage, he just fell on top of him and then stopped it like way too early. Oh God! And he gets right on top of him. He just sticks on lads. He's always falling over lads. He was reffing at the weekend. There's nothing more fucking frustrating when referees get involved in fights of like, you need to be working. Shut the fuck up. They're working. Like, I hate him so much. He's one of them lads. And I like, there's some very, very good referees. I think judging as well has improved an awful lot. But Kevin McDonald, please get rid of him. I hate him. He's terrible.
Jesus. Jeez, I don't mind McDonald.
No offense, Kevin.
No offense.
Yeah,
you're just shy.
I said no offense, so you know.
It's in the Geneva Convention.
I just think it's this mixed martial arts that gets me every time he does it, you know. But yeah, Sean, an absolute pleasure to get you onto the show again. Appreciate your time. I know you have to go and talk to Graham for a little bit. Just wondering, the listeners of the show, if they're watching as well, are probably looking, what's this access denied poster behind you? I already know.
Me. Oh yeah, here look. The time, what was it? When McGregor attacked the bus.
Yeah.
So they got all of the like from Graham was doing the documentary obviously over the time he fought Mayweather.
Yeah.
And they had all their pictures like on file for credentials and stuff, and they just stuck them all up and got access tonight. So there's Graham and Artem Lobov and a few more lads anyway. So I have that stuck there for the last while anyway. So.
Brilliant. But yeah, Sean, go and check Sean out. Give your shout out, Sean, on Twitter, all your handles, and of course Severe MMA
at
podcast.
Sean Sheehan BA on Twitter and Instagram. I don't really just post food pictures there if you want to look at them. Sean Sheehan MMA on Facebook, and sign up Patreon, severemma.com/Patreon. We do a fucking pile of podcasts every week. We did a fantastic interview with James Webb there last week. He's a great story. I don't know if you had him on or lads or not, but he's really, really good. He's practically homeless at the moment, you know, and he's a Cage Warriors champion, kind of sleeping in the gym and sleeping with Chris Fields during the week and stuff. So great story there, and loads of other podcasts. We'll go back and watch a fight every Thursday, Q&A every Tuesday, and usually have another podcast up or something. We have a new betting podcast. Last week I have 3 bets for this card. All 3 bets came up, so sign up, pay $5 a month, and you'll make back your money fairly quickly.
There you go.
It's a good proposition.
And I'll let you go with this, Sean. I blame you on BT Sports because you gave them so much hell for that tweet that they robbed on you, that they thought, you know what, we're fucking this Limerick fellow. But listen, thanks a million for taking the time, Sean. Pleasure as always talking to you, and see you soon.
Thanks for having me, lads.
Cheers,
brother. Take care.
Cheers,
Sean. So this week, Sean has told us earlier in the week that he is very excited for this segment this week. This is Fight Your Corner. So this was early in the week, and we basically then had what you kids called memes or meme battle after that, where I clearly won that battle. And there's no doubt I'll win this one too. But how we decide, this is basically where Sean gives us a topic. We do not know what the topic is now, and you have to agree with it or disagree with it depending if you win or lose. Rock, paper, scissors. So it's rock, paper, scissors on 3. Rob. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Boom. Right. So I win. Sean, well, good to see the consistency of me winning keeps rolling on. But Sean, go ahead. I'm intrigued. You've built this up very much, so this better be good.
Pressure.
So we've talked about it a lot recently. There's been a lot of fighters in the news for the wrong reasons, and this question kind of ties into sports in general in a wider discussion. So what I'm asking is, should UFC fighters be held to a higher standard? As in, should I look to a UFC fighter as a role model, or are they just normal blokes who shouldn't necessarily be held to a higher standard because of the position they're in?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I won, so I'm pro. So yes, they should be, or no, they shouldn't be.
You're saying yes, they should be.
Okay, all right. I'll let you go first, Robert.
Okay. So obviously, I don't think they should be held to a higher standard. Obviously.
Do you really agree with that?
I really do. So there's a couple of reasons why I don't think so. I think the fact that at the end of the day they are fighters fighting in the cage, and I know we see the beauty in that, but I think to put a role model tag on people who go into a cage and fight is a bit much. I don't know if they should be role models for young kids. I don't think that's who young kids should be looking up to. I think they should be looking up to different type of people, even though I do see the beauty in the sport. And then I also think, relating to that, the fact that these guys are taking so much damage in the cage, and we've seen it with like Tony Ferguson, and now we're seeing it with some more fighters, and we probably, if we're going to be honest, we're probably going to see this more going down the line, because we've seen it in boxing, that the shots that these guys take to the head seriously do affect the way they think. And then putting the pressure on them to be a role model to young kids when they're taking all this damage that is changing the chemistry in their brain, I think that's too much as well. So I think the whole idea of them fighting in the cage and then the damage they take that actually affect them as a person, and then trying to put this extra pressure of you need to be a good role model for these kids, I think it's a bit much. And I don't think kids should be really looking up to cage fighters, even though, you know, you probably will say there is beauty in it. I love it. But, you know, if I had a kid, which I don't, I wouldn't say look at these fighters as role models. You know, great athletes, but not role models.
Thanks, Rob.
Yes, I do think they can be role models. I'll give a couple of reasons for that. Reason one is to make it to the level of the UFC involves dedication, sacrifice, discipline. These are abilities and skills that you want your children to have, is to be have such drive and dedication towards a goal, to follow that goal and to get there. The fighters who fight on the big promotions, your Bellators, your UFCs, your Braves, your KSWs, these have all followed a path. They've all dedicated their lives to this moment. I do have a child. I have two children. But my son, thank you. My son, when Conor McGregor was fighting Jose Aldo, I remember when McGregor won the fight, I use that moment as a look at this guy, as in look at Conor McGregor. This man is from the same neck of the woods as you. He's from Dublin, Ireland. You could literally go to his front door within 15 minutes or so from where we live. Said he's brought up the same as you've been bringing up. His dream was to become the champion of the world. He's followed that. He's dedicated his life, trained his life to get to this moment. He's achieved that moment. It's an ultimate goal. It's an ultimate achievement. And I think you said, you know, about cage fighting. In that way, you're almost considering you're putting MMA aside and not putting it down as a sport. I think for anyone to get to the level of achievement of making it to the UFC is an achievement alone. Becoming a world champion, that's role model material. Like every sport, unfortunately, there's people who will fall down in that role model. That could be anything from darts, cricket, whatever. You'll have someone who just isn't outside of their sport, does things. But as far as people reaching and achieving their goals, they are clear role models because they are showing the way of people for dedication and giving people life skills. So yeah, 100% role models.
I think on that fact, like that, obviously they do work very hard to get to that point, but I think you could say that about loads of fields and loads of different things. Like you could say it about, like you could go really dark with it. Like I'm sure people who do a lot of bad things dedicate themselves to do a really bad thing. Not to say that MMA is a bad thing, but like I don't think that's that point of, well, they worked hard to get there, so they're role models. I don't really see that kind of correlation, because you can work really hard to do some really dark stuff, and I wouldn't say they're role models. And then bringing up like Conor as a role model, I think, you know, what we've seen with him on the front pages, as you like to say, not the back pages, over the last while, I think that almost like what I was saying, like, you know, they did dedicate themselves to this sport and they are great sportsmen and they've done some great things, dedicate themselves, but at the end of the day, some of the stuff that they do outside the cage, I wouldn't really say to my kid, or I wouldn't really say there's your role model. I look at somebody else, maybe someone like an intellectual or something like that, people who worked really hard in school or worked really hard in college and became a really smart person, not a person that, you know, is doing all this kind of stuff outside the cage.
Well, I completely disagree with it, because if you look like kids, you know, will watch sports, like you'll see kids walking around with like Ronaldo 7 on the back of their jersey and stuff like that, and you now see kids walking around with fighters' names on the back of their jerseys. And I know that Conor McGregor is a contentious one, but it's, you know, I use that as a lesson because he's a Dublin man. You look at him, he's an absolute multi-millionaire now because of his business steps outside of it. So you mentioned about it being intellectual and intelligent. That's shown on Conor McGregor. But moving away from the Conor McGregor side of it, same with any fighter. It's same with any sport. You know, it just happens with kids. They fall in line with their role models. Same way, if he wants to be a movie star, I'm going to say, look at Al Pacino, look at this guy. They're the role models. They're the people you follow. They've done shit outside as well. It's just nowadays, the world we live on, there's a lot of rumours and, you know, a lot of stuff that goes around about certain people. It's in WhatsApp groups, it's in whatever, and it's not factual information. We still don't hear these things. So, you know, you can pick and choose the stories. You're saying dedicating your life, you can go down the dark route. There's a very different thing between getting up when you're sore and hurt and going back down to a gym and dedicating more days training, going home, having a sleep, eating the right food. It just teaches discipline and drive. And I really think it's unquestionable that I understand the argument you're trying to paint with dedication, but you're so wrong. To be dedicated to something that you're not getting fruits of the labour for. Like a lot of people, McGregor, again, to bring it to him, famously says he was on the dole. He was earning 188 quid when he fought in the UFC. Beats Marcus Brimage, 60 G's, baby, gets the money, and his life has changed from the sport that he has dedicated for years, earning nothing. He was a 2-time world champion at that time when he was still on the dole. He's achieved his goals, so it just goes, stay on that path, achieve your goals. Yeah, that 100% to me is a role model.
That can happen, but like I think there's so many more examples of fighters who just don't make it. You know, you just look at so many fighters who make it to the UFC, might make a little bit of money and fail. Conor's kind of the one that stands out, but like it happens so many times where fighters get into this game, don't make a whole lot of money and fall out. So like
just because to be a role model, if you look at like most like. I'm sure we'll all say the same here. Like my father's a role model to me. So a lot of sons would look at their fathers as role models. So to be a role model doesn't mean you have to be the number one guy in the world. You just have to be doing things right.
And I don't think Conor's doing things right. Well, I think that's a bad example, though.
Any fighter. I'm currently talking about a man in itself. So if you look at, let's say, anyone, pick a fighter, name me a fighter. It'd be like Chris Weidman, for example, family man. His son looks up to him. His children are going to look up to him. What a man he is. Stipe Miocic, another one. He's a father. He's a firefighter. He's a fighter in the UFC. But probably doesn't earn it. You don't have to be earning millions to be a role model. So don't confuse earnings with role model either. You can live the right path and chase the right way and live your life and dedicate your life. Like there's so many life lessons in what fighters do, the dedication that they do, like just to get up and go to the gym. We only see the showcase of it. We don't see the pain and hurt and the grind it takes to get there. And me personally, that's inspiring. And I consider, for me, a role model is someone who is inspiring. And you can't look at these athletes and say, these aren't inspiring.
But I think a huge part of fighting and MMA, especially over the last few years, has been the stuff outside of the sport. And I think we would look at Conor and all these fighters more so of what they do in the cage. But I think for a lot of people, and especially a lot of kids, they look at what they do outside. They look at the press conferences where it's a bit unsavory. 100% they do. If you go to the UFC press conference, the one with Jose Aldo that was over in Ireland, and you had all these people going up and asking questions and telling Jose Aldo he was going to die, I don't think that's something that you could really look at and say, there's your role model, the guy that's up there, and all these people who are coming to this to basically shout abuse at Jose Aldo. And that was terrible. That was really bad, that press conference.
It was a great press conference. Little Nate the Great got up and said, can I get a forward on my first paycheck?
I was saying that one, yeah.
That's quality.
Yeah, but all the other stuff.
There's a prime example. Little Nate the Great, right? That was what, 2014, that card?
Yeah.
Little Nate the Great is a European kickboxing champion, trains in SBG, and he's going to be a little superstar. So he is seeing that as a role model, and he has gone and has dedicated his young life. That was like 1 or
2% of that press conference. I think when you look at what that was, I wouldn't say to my kid, look at that press conference with Conor and Jose Aldo, look at the questions and basically
sounds
the
to me
actions
like you
that people
have an issue with Conor McGregor. But
but Conor was your role model that you brought up. So
yeah, it still would be somebody that came from the same streets as us, around the corner from you.
Yeah. Wes Houlihan did as well. He was big.
It's waffler.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. What's your actual personal opinions on that one?
Not telling you to tell us who wins.
I'm struggling with it because I'm struggling with it for the reasons I thought I would, because I think you both made valid points, and I don't think there is a concrete yes or no answer. I think personally it's somewhere in the middle. But debate-wise, obviously, that my personal opinion doesn't come into it in this case. I'm going to go with Rob on this one.
That's weird because
I'm very in the middle on this one though as well.
I honestly, being honest with you, I think I was lazy in my debate there because I think fighters are an inspiration. Like I do too. Like I genuinely, from my perspective, right? Like, I hope you notice I've lost a bit of weight because I've been working out like a motherfucker, and like my inspiration is that I'm a commentator on fight shows. I'm doing this and I'm commentating on athletes, like these amazing athletes that dedicate their whole lives, and my genuine thing is I do think these are role models. So that is my genuine opinion, because they really do, they sacrifice so much in their lives to get to the pinnacle of the sport. And like you made a point about they don't all make it, and like I don't think you have to be the UFC champion to have made it in that sense. And it's like there's a crazy stat, it's with young footballers who go over from Ireland to the UK,
1%.
A 1% make it. But like
it's
ridiculous. Like, so to get to that level, they are an inspiration. And the point I'm making about me is like I'm inspired. Like I was commentating Clan Wars 35 up in Belfast on Saturday, and there was 21 fights, which means there's 42 fighters, right? And the first fight of the night was two kids, Joe Beck against Ushi and Fox, Next Gen against Team Torres, right? And these guys are, I think, 16 and 17 years of age, and I was inspired by them. It was a phenomenal fight, and it really showed where Irish MMA is by these kids having such a high level fight. So I genuinely believe, yes, it is an inspiration. I genuinely done that with Liam too when Conor knocked out Jose Aldo. Now shit sort of went sideways.
To be fair, at that point with Conor, it was a different story.
I'm really surprised you said they're not inspirational.
No, I don't think it's not inspirational. I think
role model.
I think they can be, but I don't think every fighter should be held to those high standards.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
That's the you could say that about any sportsman.
I agree with you.
Or any movie star.
I just put the question. Because I think a lot of the time, some of the things that make these people great fighters are often things that make them not the best.
I think a lot of fighters would say that as well. They don't want to be role models.
They don't want to be role models.
And I think that's the difference. Like, they're inspirational, but I don't know if everyone has to be a role model.
But like a role model isn't something like, I'd love to turn around and say I want to be a role model. But like, it's not something that you are. It's just something that somebody sees you are. So the weird thing is, you don't have the choice if you are a role model or not, because it's like, Sean, the way you look up to me, Sean. You know, I didn't choose
physically
that.
Look up.
You just follow me around like a little puppy in the office. But like, no, but you don't. That's
cutting that segment out.
That's an interesting fact about it is you don't have the choice if you're somebody's role model or not. It's not your decision.
I think it's also case by case. Like, I pick out Chris Weidman. I think that was a good example. Chris Weidman, I would say, probably a role model. And
Stipe's a great
Stipe, and they'd probably actually see themselves as it. But then when you say Mike Perry, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, like,
it's case by case. Mike Perry's not a role model, and he doesn't want to be a role model.
Yeah, but like, you don't have that choice. You just don't. It's
like Batman. You don't have the choice. It's got to go.
It's just like footballers is the other example. You just don't have, like, John Terry. Do you know what I mean?
Raheem Sterling is one who's stood out to me this season. I actually love Raheem Sterling. He's doing a lot for racism and stuff like that in football.
You had a fan growing up.
Yeah,
was he?
I just think he's doing a lot of good work, and
I know.
I think it's something he's consciously decided, where he's like, I'm going to stand up for this. I think he's taken a conscious decision to actually go and act as a role model. Whereas I think a lot of guys, John Terry.
I was literally thinking John
Terry has obviously consciously decided, I'm a fucking.
What I love about John Terry is Kevin Bridges' joke saying if he didn't make it as a footballer, he would have been a bloke outside a bar in IB to go, all right guys, want a few shots, coming in for a few shots. And that's 100% what John Terry would have been. John, I'm not going to lie, I'm disappointed with you on that one. I really thought, for me, I genuinely do believe that they're role models, but not by choice. Let's move it on. We've a big card actually this weekend, and I was just saying before we actually hit record today is that this really attests to Bellator. I think this card is that fighters have become more household names in Bellator. Like, I do think it's fair. And when you look at the card, like,
and not even just the guys that came from the UFC. There's other guys there that
and there's guys that you're excited for to look down. And like, as I said, it's sort of a test that maybe Bellator has taken that next step. maybe their work that they've done in Europe is really starting to take effect for them as well. The fact that people are starting to get interested. But it's an absolutely stacked card. The main event on the card is McDonald against Gracie. This is in the next stage of the tournament.
And a title fight.
Yeah. So it's always a title fight with McDonald's in competition. And I'm really interested to see where he's at mind frame.
Yeah. Let's get to it.
Yeah. So Rory McDonald makes his return after that very peculiar post-fight. It's funny actually in reflection now. I think it was more so he was just being honest in the moment and sort of I wasn't really up for this one, but taking on Gracie in this one, 9-0 Gracie. And what do you see, Rob? Is it really just the don't get taken down?
I think so. Yeah, I think if you look at the skills on face value, I think Rory McDonald is the better fighter. If you look at it on grappling terms, straight up grappling terms, Neiman Gracie is a savage on the floor. I was actually watching a couple of his fights earlier today, and he just takes everybody's back and just chokes everybody.
Yeah.
But if you look at their Ed Root fight, he was having trouble with a good grappler, and Rory McDonald's a good grappler. But then you do have to look at what Rory was talking about in that fight, because we don't really know if it was a thing of this fight I didn't feel up for, or my whole career now going forward I don't feel up for it. Because when he said it, he basically said, I feel like my whole identity with religion and my me moving towards being a more religious person, it has conflict with me actually fighting people.
Jesus loves knockouts.
Yeah, he does. So I don't know what Rory McDonald is going to show up here, because he hasn't really had a lot of time off. You know, that decision was when was that? 2 months ago. Yeah, so John Fitch was 2 months ago, and I thought John Fitch probably should have won that fight as well. So he hasn't had really much time off to really think about his future. He's basically back in camp straight away. If he's feeling the exact same as he does feel, or he did feel last time out, it could be an interesting fight. But I got to go with the fact that I just think Rory's a better fighter, and I think he can keep it on the feet. On the feet, he's going to be miles better than Neiman Gracie. So I'm going to go Rory McDonald. But I think that is a big question going in.
This fight actually reminds me of a previous fight in the UFC between Carlos Condit and Damian Maia. When you look at Carlos Condit, you're going to say he's an all-round better fighter than Damian Maia, but if Damian Maia gets him, he's screwed. And that's what this sort of reeks of. Now, you could say, if you go comparable there, McDonald has a win over Damian Maia.
Yeah.
So we sort of faced this challenge.
Yeah, he has.
Before.
He's seen this before. He's seen the puzzle before.
Yeah,
at least.
but I have to be honest, and it's weird because I was saying this about Tony when we were talking about Tony Ferguson last week. Even though I ended up going with him, I was like, where is he mentally? That McDonald scared me. That the way he fought in the fight. One, he didn't look like himself, and then two, the post with Big John, and I was like, oh God. The question really is if he can get him taken down. I presume McDonald is a favourite in this.
I presume so.
I have the odds here in a minute.
I do presume he is. I'm gonna go with McDonald, but I could see it going the way Moya just took Condit and strangle him, and if Gracie gets him to the ground, I can. Do you know what? It's weird saying this about Rory McDonald when you look at his previous fights. You can see him breaking easier now because of it.
A little bit, yeah.
So
yeah, it's
I am gonna go with him.
Yeah,
decision,
it's really weird.
But yeah, it's I'm zero confidence in it.
That's the thing though. With someone like Neiman Gracie on the floor, who's such a finisher, if you make one misstep, it could be the end. And I can see that happening because Rory McDonald made plenty of missteps against John Fitch, and he got out grappled. He was on the floor for a lot of that fight.
And if he gives that up. So
we've never really seen Rory in trouble with submissions, really. So that would be interesting to see. But yeah, I got to go Rory McDonald. I just think if we weren't thinking of Rory McDonald not being mentally healthy, if you want to say, or at least mentally into the fight game right now, I think we're like Rory McDonald all day. It's easy. But it's just that big kind of.
But in fairness, it is a big question. It is a big ask. What are the odds, Sean?
The odds are 4-7 on Rory, and I'm very tempted by the 5-4 on Neiman Gracie. I think there's enough. The stuff
close enough.
The stuff with religion is really interesting as well, because you do hear a lot of sports people thanking God and thanking God for putting them in this place.
God's a big sports fan, isn't he?
Yes.
He has to have he must be using an IPTV subscription because there's no way he's getting all them channels.
Yeah.
God TV.
Yeah, like people will be like, thanks God for putting me in this position after fucking hockeying someone about the octagon. Whereas he's actually saying I'm struggling to hit people because of God.
Franz Malambo spoke about that before.
Yeah,
it's just an interesting comparison to other fighters.
See, it's joking aside because I'm not religious, but like if people are into it, you know, if people are religious, that's your belief, and you know,
and people feel
it's powerful.
Like,
but religion is powerful. If you believe in it, you can see people doing things because of their religion. So hey, maybe I should become. But yeah, it is. It's a weird one just because of that mentality.
How's Tapology going on this one? Actually,
I'm going to take Neiman on that one.
Yeah.
Oh,
do you have Tapology open? Do you have the?
I can get it.
I think I have it here actually. So 41% Gracie, 59% McDonald.
I think that's more people. I'd say would be picking McDonald for familiarity.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
As well.
It's only 59% though.
Co-main event sees the return of the bad guy. Chael Sonnen is back, and he's fighting Machida. Who cares? Now this.
I'll watch this shit.
Yeah, I look. Do you know what? If Chael didn't, you know, give the fight up to Fedor the last time, you know what I mean, I would have been all on board.
Fix.
I've never seen Chael give up a position as easy as he did against Fedor. People might say, well, you know, technically Anderson choke at the end, but Machida's on a good run. I think he's won his last 3, has he?
Yeah.
So Machida's all right. 41 years of age, Machida as well. You know, so I'd go with Machida just because Chael Sonnen.
Chael Sonnen's fighting for a paycheck at this point. I think.
And does he need a paycheck with all
I don't know what.
He's pretty much said as much, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's pretty much said.
I'm going Machida to outside him, but if Chael actually turns up and grapples the way he fucking can grapple.
The thing is, though, I've never really seen Lyoto Machida have trouble with a grappler like that. You know, can't get up off his back. I don't see this being too much of a problem for Machida. I think Machida is still, you know, he's up there in age. You just said his age there, but I still think Machida is still a pretty good fighter, even at this stage of his career.
Well, in fairness, he is fighting a 42-year-old.
Yeah, and you know, but like the Cavallo fight, you know, Cavallo didn't look great in that fight, but you know, he got a win. It was a split decision. Knocked out Vitor. He beat Eric Anders recently by split decision as well, and I thought he looked all right in all them fights. Whereas Chael Sonnen, you know, the Rampage fight, I actually didn't expect him to beat Rampage, but he's only beat Rampage and Vanderlei, who, you know, Rampage and Vanderlei at this point, you know, it's not really great.
But this is my perfect scenario. This is the gentleman, the gentleman of mixed martial arts, the older man's division.
Yeah,
I'm not
the legends division, as they say.
Machida's got to be a huge favourite, is he?
Yeah, he's 2-5, and then Chael is 7-4. So
yeah, that makes
can't really
complete sense.
Too much of an argument for backing Chael, to be honest.
Tapology are all over Machida, 74% picking him.
And the people's main event then is Dylan Dennis taking on Max Humphrey. And I say that because I'd say a lot of the people are going, come on, Max Humphrey.
Yeah.
And it's the persona Dylan Dennis plays, and I think he plays it well. In some ways, it's like there's no question his BJJ pedigree, like, you know what I mean? He is legit as legit can be.
He's legit.
But you know, people just don't like his stick. I don't mind it. I understand he's playing a dickhead. He's doing it, and it works. So yeah, and he's going to get people tuning in who are both cheering in to see him do well, and he's going to get people coming in hoping Humphreys gets it done. But for me, I see nothing more than Dylan Dennis getting a takedown and getting a submission.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, you know, I think with Dylan Dennis, and I don't think Bellator have been too bad with this because they didn't do it with Pico. They just threw Pico to the wolves.
Yeah.
But like, I think with Dylan Dennis, they're probably doing the right thing. They're giving him manageable fights. You know, this guy doesn't look like the most impressive guy that you're going to fight in the world, and he's been choked out before. And Dylan Dennis will probably choke him out as well. So yeah, Dylan Dennis.
Is there odds on Dylan Dennis?
Yeah, he's a 2-9 favourite.
I'd
imagine even the submission is below evens.
2-9 favourite at 1-0. It's mental.
And I love this fight. We've got Shadowell taking on Horiguchi. I was saying everyone was the debate of Henry Cejudo. Is he the pound for pound? I think Horiguchi walks through him. That's a topic for another day. What's your thoughts on this one, Rob?
I just can't wait to see if the long MMA debate of whether a ring and cage really changes performances happens here, because the last time these guys fought was in the ring, and Horiguchi won it, but Darren Caldwell was doing well. But there was moments in that fight where Darren Caldwell was dominating, and he was dominating with the grappling. And he's probably a bigger guy because Horiguchi can make 125, and I'm not sure if Caldwell could make 125. And then there was also the moments up against the ropes where they had to basically push them back into the cage or into the ring. So now it'd be interesting to see, with Caldwell kind of in America now, not going over to Japan, and then also in the cage, and being able to use what he normally uses and keep people up against the cage. Although, you can argue whether that actually helps or not. Be interesting, a good kind of case study, but I don't know. I don't really know where this goes. Horiguchi has been nothing but impressive since leaving the UFC. He's been amazing.
Yeah, 12 fight winning streak. He's on, apart from the
kickboxing bit with tension. Come on, he kickboxed tension and went to decision. That's impressive as it is. And we had a big speed advantage, but Caldwell had the better grappling advantage. I don't know. I might go Caldwell.
Wow.
Yeah, I might go with Caldwell by decision. Yeah, but I'm not confident on it.
I'm going Horiguchi.
Yeah.
Horiguchi will get the stoppage late in the fight.
Well,
I
love Horiguchi as well.
Yeah, I'm watching it, and I remember you picked Horiguchi back years ago on another version of this show. When he actually picked Horiguchi against Neil Seery the day we had Neil Seery on the show.
Yeah, it was like 20 minutes later.
Jesus
I
Christ.
know. I was fucking had to
He's
pick.
fucking sick, isn't he?
Who won?
We hadn't even hung up from the phone. Neil Seery was going, the lads are all right there. That was a sound. He's fucking picking against me. Yeah, so
who won?
I can't remember. I think it was Horiguchi. But yeah,
Just keeping it real.
I honestly think, I said it there briefly, I honestly think that Horiguchi beats Cejudo.
Oh.
Horiguchi very backable in this fight.
Yeah,
Is he
very backable?
Yeah, he's 11-10, and then Caldwell 4-6.
Wow.
Yeah.
Favour.
And just for the European viewers, this card is from Madison Square Garden, and it is on Sky Sports Action from 2 o'clock in the morning, and
Sky Sports Action.
Sky Sports main event from 3:30.
Excellent. Just looking briefly, quickly
Last
down the
main
card.
card,
Yeah, we've Aaron Pico, someone we spoke about, is on the card 4-2, taking on Alan Burrich, 12-0. So again, it's interesting, isn't it? They've sort of taken the step now where they're really starting to test Pico.
Yeah, big time. Like they're not really giving him any gimmies. Like Boris is good.
And this is Burrich's fourth fight in the UFC in Bellator.
Yeah. I'm gonna pick Pico. It's weird because I still think Pico has all the talent in the world, and he's been caught a few times. Yeah. Which how long is that gonna last? If you keep getting caught badly, that could fall down like a ton of bricks really quickly. But I'm gonna go Pico. When I actually look at him fight and I look at Boris fight, I think Pico matches up quite well with him. But again, he's not getting easy fights. It's mad. It's crazy. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's a pretty good card.
It's weird because when you looked at Pico, his last fight, it was actually almost similar to his very first fight against Freeman, where he just got caught. And that's why I think Pico's going to be a fan favourite. In some ways, he's willing to go out in the shield to put you out on yours, and fans will always love that. But lessons learned from it, hopefully moving in, and I will definitely. I'm going with Pico myself there. Did you say the odds there, Sean? Was I not paying attention?
No, there's no odds on that one. They only have 4 fights on Paddy Power at the minute.
PaddyPower.com. Step up your game, son.
And they only have win-only markets because I was trying to find Dennis by submission as well.
Yeah, see, it's difficult enough, I think, to get odds on Bellator as well. Yeah. I'm sure if you went onto I think it's a Twitter at Ask Paddy, I think you could get odds there.
Yeah, you could request a market.
Yeah, step up your game, Paddy. Let's get out the pen and paper, the school bag. It's time for educating young Sean. Okay, Sean. So your homework this week was Roger Huerta and Clay Guida and Gilbert Melendez, Diego Sanchez. Let's start with Huerta and Clay Guida. This was going back in time. So this was a long time ago, actually. You're looking at 2007. Yeah. So this was a long while back. What did you think of it? Considering Roger Huerta was the poster boy for MMA. Remember, he was like the Sports Illustrated. Yeah. So he was the poster boy in that way, that he just looked good in that moment and the photographer took the picture. But anyway, apart from that, what did you think of the fight?
Really good fight. They did a good job of talking about the hype that was sort of behind Huerta at the time. And they were talking about, this is a fight now where we can see if the hype is real or not. And he did face quite a bit of adversity in the fight. It's so funny watching Guida fight. Like, how the fuck is he seen out of that hell?
Yeah, I know.
He's like Street Fighter. Blanca from Street Fighter fights, especially back then.
Especially when he gets sweaty and stuff, and it's literally over his eyes. It's ridiculous. But yeah, he looked really good. A bit of a wall as well, obviously.
The carpenter.
Yeah. Really
we have to find a fighter who has a nickname the Plumber, just for sure.
Yeah.
There surely is.
There has to be.
We'll apology that one. But yeah, no, really good fight. Really enjoyed it. Puerta, they're both badasses. Like chins for days. Like.
Speaking of chins for days, we won't make you give the score. We'll do that in a minute.
Yeah.
Gilbert Melendez, Diego Sanchez. Of course, we just had Sean Sheehan going on, and he basically named every Diego Sanchez fight, saying you can pick anyone. He's always in incredible fights.
And he said this was the best of the lot, so I'd be interested to get your opinion because you watched the other one that I gave you.
Yeah.
That's being inducted into.
It's been inducted,
the
yeah.
UFC
So let's see how we
Hall
rate
of
them.
Fame.
Yeah. Yep.
This was an absolute war. I was laughing watching this. I was like, this is just stupid. Like this is not. This is stupid. Brilliant fight.
Stupid.
Brilliant fight. Diego Sanchez is just crazy.
Yeah, he's a mad
A crazy bastard. Gilbert Melendez looked really good as well. I've only seen a bit of him sort of the last few years, but he looked really good.
Mm-hmm.
Melendez rolls with the Diaz brothers.
Yeah, I knew that.
Was that his first fight in the UFC?
I'm not sure off the top of my head.
I'll check it out.
I knew he wrote him, Jake Shields wrote together with the Diaz
Scrap
brothers
pack.
and that. Yeah. Stockton 209 stand up.
Yeah.
Isn't it mental how good of all stand-up strikers they all are, apart from Jake Shields?
Yeah. It's like the black sheep of the bunch.
Yeah,
Quite rapper,
he must get fucking lit up in training. No, his
There's a
second fight he lost to Benson Henderson on his debut.
There's a part in this fight where Sanchez just starts smiling at him and coming forward and with his hands down and his chin up, and it's crazy.
When this fight was made, it was like, oh my god, they've made it.
Yeah.
They've made it. Yeah. Championship rounds.
Giving that one a 5.
Yeah.
Crack on.
Was it better than the
Clay Guy one?
Clay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was, yeah.
Very good.
I actually can't remember what I gave that one.
I think he gave a 5.
Pretty good 5
Did
as
I?
well.
Yeah, that one's getting like a 5.5 then.
Yeah.
And then I give the other one a 4 as well. Just because there was a
Fine.
finish in it and I like the 3-round wars.
Yeah. So he likes the blood.
You're going to be disappointed with my next one. So homework for, just because there's maybe it mightn't go the distance. I have mine up, Rob, if you want. I can go ahead.
Go ahead.
So I'm in 2009. This is where I love, Rob. UFC Fight Night 17. It took place in Tampa, Florida. This was the main event, Rob.
UFC Fight Night 17.
Yeah.
That's a ways back.
How you don't know?
Nah,
this,
I
beyond
don't.
Me.
What did give us something.
Power team fan.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolute cash. It's Joe Lozon, Jeremy Stevens.
Oh.
I love Joe Low.
I know that.
Yeah.
Brilliant. J-Lo, yeah, he's absolutely phenomenal. I think you gave him the Jim Miller fights before.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know Joe that he said, Joe's Little Heathen is the, who the fuck's that guy?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen a good bit of Jeremy Stevens.
Yeah. So this was back in 2009 though, so this is a long time ago.
Yeah.
Robert, what's your one?
Mine was from 2013, December 7th. It was UFC Fight Night, Hunt versus Bigfoot, and that's the fight. Mark
Excellent.
Hunt versus
Heavyweights.
Bigfoot
I
Silva.
do like Mark Hunt,
Antonio
big fan.
Silva.
Stop swinging in your chair. You're making.
Can you hear that?
Yeah. Stop having fun in your seat.
Yeah.
Heavyweight fight.
Excellent fight, yeah. Heavyweight fight.
Yeah, a big fan of Mark Hunt. Funny man.
Do you know? But you know what I want to do? I like giving you a fight though, and I'm not saying that's what you're doing. I like giving you a fight though, because we know you like a bloodbath. We know you like that stuff. But I also like giving you a fight where something happens, like something like I know one I'm gonna give him down the line is this fight where there's a submission that's only ever happened once in the UFC, for example. So I like giving you something that's not you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not like we could play to your likes and just constantly give you the crazy.
This will play us right into
stuff.
that.
Yeah,
Just
Well, I've done exactly like that. Look, I'm already building myself up as if it's fight your corner. Mine's better because something brilliant happens.
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see what you think of these ones. But let's get to that part of the show and wrap the show up in the best way possible, and that's with Sean's weird and wonderful news. And as Sean said before we started, lads, this is a bumper week. I've loads. So it's Sean's weird and wonderful news. So Sean, what have you got for this week?
First up, we have a picture of Cowboy Cerrone and Tony Ferguson cutting away together in the sauna. So obviously there was quite a bit of respect between the two in the build up to the fight, and they were cutting weight. And Brett Okamoto tweeted this picture, and he said that they had agreed in the sauna that they were just going to stand in the middle, and trade. So yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
It's really cool. It's a really cool picture. That'd be deadly for like a.
It's even artistic. Isn't
It's very artistic. It's something that you get printed out and put on the canvas or something. But it is mad, isn't it? Like looking at these guys clearly suffering. Like Tony looks a bit happy, but he's crazy. But they're clearly suffering to fight the same weight class, cutting all this weight. You know, you do hope in a way just that you could just fight where they're healthy.
I remember Brave in Belfast, and lads who were fighting the next night were all in the sauna with one another, helping each other.
Yeah, it's mad. It's mad. I'd say it's gruesome.
Yeah,
I'd say your body feels.
Speaking of gruesome, we have Anthony Smith.
Oh, Terminator.
Whoa.
So broke his hand.
Fucking raging your tattoo, wouldn't you?
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Broke his
bad break,
hand.
innit?
As you can see, the break, badass break.
Man.
And then
Look at that.
that is disgusting.
That is Terminator.
Spinning back fist will be alright though later.
Yeah. Although now it looks like it
Raging
kind
with tattoo.
of goes with the tattoo, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, it looks like the face has like a steel bar on the side.
when it's healed. Wonder how long that'll take to heal. It's fucking mental what they can do now, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
You should piece your hand back together.
That looks sick, doesn't it?
That's sick, yeah. Fuck, man.
What's funny about that is he clearly said, "Well, he's all hold it open till I get a picture of it."
Exactly, yeah. That's a
the
badass
weird
right
part
there.
of the
I'd be like,
situation.
we'll just close it up so I don't look at it.
Yeah.
So I can't see it.
Yeah, exactly.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Israel Adesanya next.
Haven't heard from Israel.
One of the
anymore.
weirdest tweets I've ever seen.
Okay.
So you can read it out there for us, Noel.
Fun facts. After my UFC debut at UFC 221, in the locker room while taking my cup and undies off, I had pre-cum stringing out of my wee-wee.
Like, A, I don't care. B, I didn't want to know it. And C, why are you fucking tweeting it out? Like,
Then you bring it to us. He likes fighting anyway.
yeah, he does.
Yeah. I think that's an understatement.
Yeah.
I like fighting myself now, but I've never had to go, "Oh, I've just ejaculated."
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Uh,
Wow.
Not just like there, but stringing out of my wee-wee.
yeah.
It's
Very
the-
graphic, innit?
Yeah, the way he phrased
Give us a
it.
look at, scroll down. I want to see some comments.
Yeah. Oh, you see the top of Dana White's head?
Yeah.
Dana White looking sternly. I was not aware of that. Nice.
Okay, excellent. Joe.
Rogan.
Oh,
there's
just all
Thanos.
shocked faces now. Seriously, just
Just
stop
stop
it.
it.
Yeah, definitely. You out of pocket. Keep going. Okay. Well.
I don't believe you.
I don't believe you. They're a classic Ron Burgundy. All right, moving on.
Moving on. That was brilliant. That in a
Next
weird
up,
way.
Fucking hell.
Henry Cejudo, right? He might be a double champ. He might be a triple champ. What way is he holding
What
the
the
fucking pen in this picture?
Whoa! If you're listening to this, he's signing the posters as they do,
And he's drawing a
ceremonially.
squiggly line for his autograph.
Yeah.
But he's holding the pen almost like his fingers are fully extended, and like the pen is sticking in the inside of his palm.
Not only do you not hold a pen like that, you don't hold anything like that.
No.
Plus, his hand is hovering above when he's writing. When you're writing, you put your arm on what you're writing.
Yeah, that's photoshopped.
I'm gonna call,
He wouldn't arrive, so they're just like, we'll Photoshop you in. It looked like you'd done it.
That's fucking weird.
I'm
That's
calling
so
you out,
weird.
Henry. You might be great at fighting, but your handwriting is shit.
Well, you know, he's
That's
been
awful.
signing a shitload of checks, so he's all right.
Yeah, very good. Yep, that's bizarre.
This picture of Valentina is so badass.
Look at the ref.
Oh, fuck.
He thinks like,
Yeah.
shit.
Now it looks like he's either about to drop an absolute doozy in his pants, or he's thinking, fuck, I'm a bit too far away here. I better get in. What I loved about... That's a fucking badass
That's a
picture.
fantastic
What I
picture.
loved about that's MMA fighting is that... what's her name took the picture?
That would be Esther Lynn.
Yes,
The elbows.
She's
Yeah.
now. I don't know if it is, so if it's not, apologies.
I'd
It could
imagine.
be. It is. It says it there actually. Look.
Oh, yeah.
Esther Lynn. Yeah, she always gets some incredible action photographs. And when we had Jerry from KO Media on their old show,
Yeah, he was...
he actually was bigging up Esther Lynn so much. But yeah, the referee there is fantastic. But what I love about, like, that looks like she's going to follow up.
Yeah.
But when she realizes it, she does a little skip and hop to get past that. She doesn't go
Yeah.
for the follow
She's
shot.
a killer. Talking
savage.
after, she just said, "Look, if it's not being done to you, or if you're not doing it, it's being done to you." So
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it's very eerily like
badass,
if
isn't
she
it, though?
dies,
Did you
she
see?
dies.
Did you see the
Yeah,
dance she
pretty
done?
much.
Did you see the dance she done after it?
Yeah,
and
the
then
dance.
she does an interview in 3 different languages.
Yeah, badass.
That's a talented person right there.
Return of
Also, while we move on, sorry, before we go on to that, did you notice all the commissioners? There was one guy in particular that looked like agent 47 from fucking Hitman.
No.
He was in a black suit with a red tie, bald. I'm like, oh, Agent 47's got himself a nice little gig.
Did he have a barcode in the back of his head?
Probably. Beep. The referee is brilliant there.
Shit. Do you know, remember none of them photoshops where like it goes like it shows the picture and then it just puts the person's face on everyone's thing? I'd love to see that there.
It almost looks like he's gonna go.
The mouth trumpet. Yeah.
You could proper put a trumpet. Put a trumpet in there.
You could. Yeah.
You know, brass band. Yeah, and Valentino's hammering the drum.
It almost
hammering the drum.
No, it almost looks like he's doing a shit impression of Valentina. It's like he's trying to do a shit impression.
Yeah.
This is what I'd look like if I'd done that.
Yeah. Phenomenal. Right, Sean, what is number 624222181_312986114?
Well, no, it is a return of a personal favourite. Will Fleury.
Fucking Spud Life is back.
And I'll be honest, those Spuds don't look too great.
No,
they don't.
You know what?
Very dry.
I'd say they were going off that day. He's overcooked the egg. Yeah. And is he sneaking an L slice of ham?
Slice of ham?
Does that Will, if you're listening,
explain this shit.
Step it up.
Number one, were you charging your dinner?
That's why the Spuds were so dry.
The little charger. Overcooked the egg. But is that a slice of ham or potentially chicken?
It's definitely not chicken.
Pepper to 2 eggs it is.
Looks like a cold cut though. Looks like a cold cut from a packet.
Spuds, man.
Yeah.
Fair play to Will. He sent me a little message the other day on Instagram, just replying to my story.
Yeah.
I won't say what it
we
was.
love you, Will.
We're seeing better Spud picks from.
Yeah.
No,
we were commending your Spud cooking, Will.
Yeah.
But that one, it might have been in a rush. Maybe you needed to do what that referee looked like you needed to do, and you had to drop a doozy while you were still boiling them, and they overboiled. Or maybe he made them the day before and they were microwaved.
That's a possibility.
I'd say Will had.
Do you know what? I
Prepped
thought better of Will than microwaving Spuds. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he has microwaved his Spuds, but potentially, Sean.
Will, if you're listening, let us know.
Yeah,
let us know.
And
you let us know. Leave a comment. What do you think of this week's episode? Did you agree with Sean's point? Is McDonald a terrible referee and didn't he as a caddy? Sean, we didn't really stay on the fence for that one, but we do appreciate Sean coming on the show and giving us his time. And we thank you for giving us your time with tuning in and listening. But make sure that you hit subscribe and make sure you hit the bells and make them bells ring. This has been episode 15. I've been Noel O'Keefe. He's been Robert Palin. He's been the plumber, Sean Taylor. Until next week, peace. So apparently if you press this button somewhere here, it subscribes and you get all the notifications for the show. So hit that button there.
You have to click the bell though to get the notifications down the bottom.
Make sure you hit it and they get the ringer things because Rob didn't know. So it's the button there or there.
It's somewhere roughly around